Hello class, welcome to solving equations with variables on both sides. So before we get started, let's take a look at the simplifying and solving again. Simplifying is going to refer to the stuff that's on the same side. We've been talking about a lot like the combining like terms and also using the distributive property. So when it's on the same side, make sure we are just adding them together, simplifying correctly. Whereas when we get to the solving, this is the part where we are now looking to collect our x's on one side of the equation and our numbers on the other. So you can see here we have the 9x on one side equaling 18 plus 3x. And some of you guys like drawing that line right down the middle. So that way when it's on opposite sides of this equation, we know we need to use those inverse operations. So if we see that plus 3x, we can subtract that from both sides, leaving us with the 6x equal to 18, because 3 minus 3 is 0. And then we can solve, again, if we see multiplying, dividing by 6 on both sides, leaving us with our solution of x equals 3. So when you are solving these problems, one of three things is going to happen, just like we saw there. It could be x equals a number, where we have one solution. We could end up solving and getting down to a point where we might see a number like a that does not equal b, so that would be no solution. So that would be something like, 7 equals negative 2. Doesn't happen. Or we might have many solutions. This is where our a does equal b, and that would be like 7 equals 7. This is going to tell us basically many solutions. Sometimes you might see this written as infinite solutions, or sometimes you may see this symbol that means all real numbers. And that's what we are looking for as we solve. Okay, let's look at example A, and what we want to do first is look for anything we can combine like terms. So right there we have that 4n plus n on one side, so we can add those two together. And at this point we need to make a decision. I always like just try to get our n's onto the side that's going to make it positive. So we are now at the point where if you want to draw this line down, there's nothing we can do as far as simplifying. So we need to start using our inverses. If we have a 2n, we could subtract 2n from both sides. What that's going to do is make us do 5 minus 2, which is 3n. That equals 15. And that's going to leave that 3n positive. We could have tried to subtract 5n to get started, but that would have made things a little bit trickier. But at this point, we are just going to continue to do our inverse operations using those properties of equality. Let me fix that. That should actually be a 12. And then if we divide by 3, n is equal to 4. Now, it's always wise to plug these back into our equations and make sure that that's going to add up on both sides to be equal. Okay, let's look at example B. This one has some distributive property that we want to make sure we multiply out. Now remember, that is a negative 6 times 1 and a negative 6 times negative x. And nothing else to simplify. So at this point, this is where we, want to start looking to combine our x's. Well, it doesn't really matter what we do here. It looks like if we subtract 6x and subtract 6x, that's going to leave us with a 1 equal to negative 6. At this point, this is something that is not equal, so we're going to call this no solution. And that is all we're looking for at this problem. Okay, let's look at example C. This does look like it's going to have a little bit of our distributive property. So let's just rewrite this first part, the left side of our equation. That is equal to a negative 5. Alright, so now we got plus 5n. 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. Now on this right side of the equation, we do have the negative 5 and negative 35 that we can combine like terms. So negative 5 minus 35 is negative 40. Now some of you may be looking at this and already seeing that, oh, that's the same thing on both sides. But I always like seeing one last step. If we look at that subtract 5n and subtract 5n, well, that's going to be 0. So bring down your negative 40. And over here, 5 minus 5 is 0. So does negative 40 equal negative 40? Yes. So this is going to be one where a lot of times you will see this symbol that means all real numbers. And then sometimes you may see that this, what this really means is if it's saying all real numbers, you will have many or infinite solutions. Basically saying we could put whatever number we want, and the equation is always true. Okay, now take a few minutes to practice 2.3a. Solve these equations before you check your work. All right, good luck.